just got these turbos removed. Just had finished my turbo elbows fabrication, and yeah, they came out good. I mean, I was able to remove the turbos with the elbows and with O2 sensors attached, so yes, that was a success. And next step is to do the oil feed and return lines. Afterwards I will think about coolant. For now, oil is important. These turbos will die without oil pretty fast probably. And so these are the coolant lines that I have. And yeah, I'm not sure if I explained this before, and why this turbo coolant line looks so weird. What is this shape? Well, that's because these turbos are made for 3.5 EcoBoost, but from my understanding, this block is not 3.5 EcoBoost, obviously. This is 3.7 Cyclone, but it does have the same ports. Well, can't see, but there is a port there for the, I'm pretty sure there's a port there. I mean, there's a port there, but I'm pretty sure that's oil feed port on this side of the block. And there's one on this side of the block right there. Behind, yeah, that's the port, and bolts up, the line bolts right into here and goes underneath. There is no drain port for the, there's no drain ports for the oil return as far as I can tell into the block, so I didn't do anything with that. But I did drill out ports into the oil panel already, and what I'm gonna do is just gonna chop off these bungs at the end, so it's just gonna be like a hose, and then I'm gonna slip a rubber hose over top of it with a bunch of hose clamps, and hopefully that's gonna hold it. And eventually, if it doesn't hold it, maybe I'll try to either weld some kind of bead on there or bead roll it. But yeah, for now I just need to cut off these ends of the oil return. And yeah, this oil feed and return are both on the same side. You need to have oil return on the bottom because the gravity is what returns the oil to the engine, but the feed line can be in any orientation. In this case, it's also from the bottom. So it feeds from the bottom, goes through the turbo, and drains out the bottom. So I'm gonna take this to the office with me tomorrow, chop it up, and we'll be back. And I'm back from work. So now, before I can install this, there's actually these filters that get screwed into the block. One of these filters came with a tube, other filter had to buy separately. I don't know how they arranged these things. Also, this one filter I think came with 2 bolts that is necessary. The 2 pipes, I don't know why would they send 2 bolts if this one package came with one of the tubes. So since the spacing is a little tight, actually, no, this one's okay. Yeah, let's test fit this guy. I will remove that hex socket plug in there, and then I think this fat one goes in there. On the other side is a little bit more tight. I think this is the one that goes here. It's just I don't know. Oh, wait a sec. Does it fit? Ooh, maybe that's fit. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but the spacing between the AC compressor and the block is very tight. Worst case scenario, I'll just file away this one corner of the engine block, not the AC compressor. I don't think there's much material I can grind away at the AC compressor. I'm no stranger at grinding away at my engine block, since that aluminum shavings on the floor there came from my engine block. Okay, let's get some wrenches. So starting to remove that plug, that will be the oil feed pressure line. It takes the biggest hex socket I have. Oh, jeez. And okay, more torques than I can apply. All right, got the plug out. Here's the plug, and here is the fitting that goes on 3.5 EcoBoost. It should be able to thread it in there. This fitting came with some kind of removable plug that is reverse threaded. and there's reverse threads in here. I don't know why. Since this thing just slides in there, there's no need for the threads. And now my block is covered in oil. And there it is, the plug went in there, or the strain thingy went into the block, no problem, thread is right in. Let me just loop this guy up a little bit and see if we can get this guy in here as well. All right. It is tight. The motor mount is a little bit in the way. But I think, no, actually it's not in the way. I think the turbo is a little bit up here. So yeah, no, I think that's dope. I think that bolt might have been made for this hole. Lines up kind of weird. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. Oh well, I'm okay with that. Let's try to do the other side now. Okay, so to remove the AC, or at least detach it partially from the engine, AC compressor, I need to, I think first better loosen the belt. It's weird on this car, it doesn't have a tensioner for the AC, it has a stretchy belt, and don't really know the exact procedure in removing it or installing it. Well, actually on installing it, I think I figured out a nice procedure if you have a running engine. On removing it, I don't know, besides just jamming things in its way and trying to pry it off. Finally was able to remove that belt without cutting it because I'm stingy. How much time did I waste on this? Was it really worth it? I don't know. And is there anything I learned that you should do? Well, one thing I did learn is don't try to slip it over the back of the AC. That's not gonna help. Try to slip it over the front. And I think some people say slipping over the back of the balancer pulley is the way to go. Yeah, now I'm gonna try to find the bolts for this AC compressor to detach it from the block. So there's this stud came out. There's this nut came out. I think it's 13 millimeter. It's kind of weird. You need a 13 millimeter socket to get this nuts off, or half inch is close enough, and I think it works. Then, because one of the bolts came out, then I needed to also remove this stud, and to remove this stud I use a 5 millimeter hex. And then one at the bottom. It goes right into the block. What the hell? Look at that. That's hilarious. I mean, I guess it's not important because as long as I can remove, get the AC loose, it probably doesn't matter. Oh yes, it came out. Yes, there you go. Okay. Yeah, that's 3 fasteners that are holding the AC compressor in place. And now I should have access to get to that port for the oil feed. It's really not easy to get to that port, like even to show where it is. You wouldn't even know it's there unless you were looking for it. So the only reason I thought that port would be there because that's where it is on a 3.5 EcoBoost. So I decided to explore. Luckily I found it. Not that difficult to find if you know where you're looking. And now let's see if I can remove it and see if the EcoBoost turbo oil lines will fit there. Man, that thing was tight. I had to get a bigger wrench to break it loose. Got it all scraped up in the process. So it's a 10 millimeter hex, internal hex, and a bunch of extensions. Well, I use the conversion so I can apply more leverage. And yeah, look at this. Cool. Yeah, that's the one I removed. And this is one I bought for EcoBoost. And what do you know, it looks like perfect match. I wonder how many people are using it this way. I know there were actually conversion kits by Super 6 or something like that that made for the 3.7 Cyclone engines to utilize 3.5 EcoBoost turbos. But I think even that kit is not utilizing these ports on the block. So for now, I just want to see if this hole actually lines up with the hole on the block, because on the other side it didn't. So the oil line is in, but the bolt that is supposed to hold it in ever so slightly doesn't line up. I wonder if the casting was actually changed on purpose. I wonder why the port is there but it doesn't line up, or it doesn't line up because the line that I bought is not OEM, so it's not a good quality, and it's just a little bit out of whack. Maybe just requires a little bit of persuasion. Gotta test fit it with the turbo in here, and then I'll know better. Yeah, also my drain line is right now going right at the starter. That's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to realign, have it whipped around that way. But for now, I think I will take both of these lines, left and right, and I will extend the hole where it needs to be extended so it does fit. And also, look at that. Is that a coolant port? I think it is, but I don't know. I kind of don't like it. It's kind of weird, like jammed in there so far. I don't really want to get to it. For now, I think maybe I'll just mark up the oil lines where I need to oval them out and tack it up for tonight and oval them out tomorrow at work. And hopefully we'll have this car started in a couple of days. Got this tube modified at work. This is for the driver's side, so this hole needed to be elongated. I didn't do anything to the passenger side because I'm not sure if it really needs modifications. Maybe it just needs a little bit of finagling. It seemed like this hole was out of line just a little bit, but maybe I just need to push it in a little more. I don't know yet until I install the turbo. Now, the plan for today is just cut this conduit out of the storage room, and got my knife here, and I tackle this wire harness right here. Two reasons. Well, first reason, I think it's kind of stupid how they put the harness so close to the manifold. I don't know if it's gonna last. Like, heat is not a good thing for longevity of wires, so it's better to have it further away. I know it's heat wrapped, whatever, but still, like, eventually the heat is gonna soak through that. If you're gonna have it, hot for a while, it's not like it's dissipating heat. It's just gonna go through that eventually. For the short bursts of heat, yeah, it's gonna be fine, but for prolonged, eventually will soak through. So, and two, the turbo has a sharp edge that's pushing right into this harness, and I think with some vibrations, actually might start cutting through the conduit and through the wires and mix things up. My plan is to re-wrap it somewhere along the top here, closer to this harness. It might not look pretty, but at least it will last. Obviously, I will need to leave some of the harness down here, like this one, to the starter, maybe starter and AC, and power steering, I guess, too. But the rest of it should be moving upstairs. The GoPro battery died, so no more time lapse, but I think I've got it all figured out. It looks like a mess, but I know what's going on here. So this is the power steering. This is the start the solenoid wire, I have unraveled the starter harness. So there's the power going to the starter. Starter solenoid wire is coming from the PCM, I guess. So that's why, and it was kind of tangled up, so I got it all unraveled so I can route it how I want it. So now I have all of these wires which can go above here. Except there's a ground wire here. I don't know if I like it here. I think I'm gonna remove it because this harness is gonna go above here, and I don't want this thick ground wire to go above here. It just doesn't flow way up my feng shui. So I'm gonna go somewhere else. And also, look how fused these wires are. They're basically melted into the ground wire. Well, I don't know if you can see now anymore, but when I was, yeah, they're kind of like, I have to peel them off. I think that's from the heat in this area. All the wires are basically kind of almost melted and fused together. Just the rubber insulator on the wire fused together. I think the wire itself are still fine, but still, I don't think that this is the best place for wire harness in such a hot spot. So I'm gonna redo this. The ground wire just goes to the back of the head, I think, or the block. Looks like head. So I'm just gonna remove it, and I don't know, I'll think about where to put it somewhere else, but I just don't, it's kind of cramped already here, so I'll probably put it somewhere else. So the wiring looks quite a bit different now. As you can see, there will be no wires going below the manifold. This one will go above the manifold, so there is nothing there. The starter cable is going underneath the motor mount, and this is how much extra cable I have from the alternator. There's a foot long cable here, and there's about foot long here. So yeah, routing it underneath the engine gives you 1 foot of extra length, so you can shorten the cable. So there it is. So yeah, there's the cable going right along with the power steering, and it gets pulled through behind the oil filter housing and behind the alternator, and goes over the top, and that's how it's here. So you don't have that harness going behind, like over top of the manifold behind the engine. Yeah, so that harness used to go underneath the manifold, now it's gone. And then there is the starter cable. It's also going underneath the control arm, and that's where the old cables kind of collect, and I will put them back into the conduit again. And yeah, I think that's definitely a better way to go. This is not the first time I thought about this. I did think about doing this before, but I didn't want to go this route because I thought the oil filter will be over top of the harness, and I didn't want to spill any oil on any harness. In this case, it's actually going behind the oil filter housing, so it's not a problem at all. So I think this is actually better than factory. I don't know why didn't they do this way from factory. Maybe, perhaps, this harness works better in a truck. Maybe it's a harness that's used in a truck as well. So maybe that's the reason. Have you noticed that these stock harnesses are wrapped in something, and it looks like electrical tape, except when you unravel it, it's not sticky. Have you ever thought how to get this kind of tape? After a lot of searching on Amazon, finally I was able to find a tape that does exactly that. The name for this was dry vinyl tape, but there was only one seller is actually selling something like this. But then I found that if you go into a different part of online stores, like some kind of bondage kinky stuff, this product is a lot more common. I do need this tape for wrapping up this harness because I don't want to wrap an electrical tape. It will be gooey and sticky, and this is just a much nicer product for this kind of job. Just finished wrapping my harnesses. Don't they look kinky? I mean clean. Look at that. Good stuff. Also, while I was there, I cleaned up the wiring for the crank position sensor because it was in the way of the turbo exhaust manifold, so now it's kind of wrapped underneath and behind, and I think that should be good. The nut for this is 13mm deep socket, which I don't have, which is a little weird socket. I don't know why did they put 13mm in there. I think there's a bunch of places where they use 13mm. Why can't they just stick to 12 or 14 or ½ inch? Gonna cut this video right here as I'm trying to keep the size of the videos below 30 minutes. Hopefully the progress isn't too slow. In the next video I'll wrap up the oil and coolant lines. Thanks for watching and hopefully see you in the next video.